Welcome to True Haunt Lore. Some addresses are just coordinates for ordinary life. A place where bills arrive, where the kettle boils, where kids grow up and the walls hold laughter. And then there are rare addresses that feel wrong. Like the map accidentally pinned a doorway. Like the air itself is thinner. They're ready to tear. Tonight we open the file on one such place, number 30 East Drive, on the Checkerfield Estate in Pontefract, Yorkshire, England. A plain semi-detached council house, brick, small garden, narrow stairs, and a documented account so violent it still makes seasoned investigators go quiet. If you want more case files like this, subscribe and turn on notifications to join the archive. We have to go back to August 1966. The Pritchard family had just moved in, Joe, Jean, their son Philip, and their daughter Diane, grounded people, working class, practical, the kind of family that fixed problems with a toolbox, not a seance. It started on the August bank holiday, not with a scream, but with the house behaving like it had new rules. Jean and her mother, Sarah Scholes, walked into the living room and froze. A fine white powder drifted through the air like slow snow, chalk dust, coating the furniture, settling into the carpet. No open windows, no broken plaster, no reason. Then the kitchen floor, a puddle of water just there, spreading across the linoleum. They wiped it up. Another puddle formed in the hallway, then another near the stairs, appearing like the house was sweating fear. That was the first signal. Something had noticed them. In the days that followed, the odd turned into aggressive. A heavy tea dispenser began to pour by itself. Then the entire thing lurched and flew, smashing against the wall like it had been swatted by an invisible arm. Potted plants tore free and shattered. Drawers opened, doors slammed. Footsteps ran overhead when nobody was upstairs. Joe checked pipes, checked locks, checked the foundation. But you cannot call the police and say, an intruder just threw my furniture, and it is made of air. The family tried to cope. They even gave the presence a name, Fred, a joke you make when you are terrified, because laughing is cheaper than leaving. But the house did not treat everyone equally. Sarah became a target. One quiet evening, she sat in a chair trying to pretend this was fine when a heavy pair of fur-lined gloves lifted off a surface across the room, floated toward her, and slapped her in the face. Not hard enough to break bone, hard enough to humiliate. Like something wanted to prove it could touch her anytime it pleased. And then, it narrowed in on Diane. Diane was 12, small, easy to frighten, easy to corner. Night after night, she was jolted awake by the sense of someone standing beside her bed. The air would turn bitter cold in seconds, so cold her breath showed. Then the unseen force would strike. She was thrown from the mattress, grabbed, shoved. Red welts rose on her arms and neck marks that looked like fingers, photographed and remembered. The most infamous incident happened on the staircase, the spine of the house. Lights flickered and died. The hallway filled with a sound like heavy breathing, slow, guttural, too close. Diane screamed. She lifted off the floor, feet kicking at nothing, and she was dragged upward by the throat. Joe lunged for her. Neighbors rushed in. Hands grabbed her legs, trying to anchor her down. They later described it like a tug of war with something huge, something that did not get tired. The banister splintered as Diane clawed for purchase. Step by step, she was hauled to the top landing and then dropped in pieces. When the lights returned, bruising was already blooming around her neck, deep and unmistakable. Not imagination, not a dream, not a prank. That was when the case stopped being private. The house pulled in witnesses. A local vicar came to bless the home. He entered with a candle and a prayer, and the room answered with violence. A heavy candlestick lifted and crashed down. The vicar went pale, staring at the space above the mantel like he could feel something staring back. He left and refused to return. He told the family the presence felt old and hateful and beyond what he could push out. Police officers came too, not once, multiple times. They watched objects move without contact. One officer saw a coal scuttle slide across the floor like it had been summoned. Another reported lights reacting even when the fuse box had been removed. These were trained observers, writing down what they could not explain. And then the sightings began. People started seeing a figure tall, draped in dark monk-like robes. A heavy cowl pulled low where a face should be. But instead of features, there was only a swirling blackness. It appeared at the top of the stairs, in doorways, in the corner of the eye, always just long enough to make your stomach drop. That is where the name came from. The Black Monk. Researchers dug into local history. The estate sat near the grounds of an old priory. Records and local accounts pointed to a monk from centuries past, someone who had committed brutal crimes, someone condemned, executed, and denied peace. Whether every detail lines up or not, one thing did. The personality in the house felt like a predator. It targeted women. It enjoyed fear. It reacted. It learned.
Skeptics later argued it was teenage energy, that the activity came from Diane without her knowing, but this presence answered knocks with knocks. It manipulated latches. It left crude symbols scratched into walls. It behaved like something with intent, not random pressure in the air. Over time, the violence weakened. Maybe it ran out of fuel. Maybe the family's refusal to break starved it. Eventually, the Pritchards moved on, but the house did not become quiet. Decades later, investigators still enter that narrow hallway and feel the temperature fall. Feel the stairs resisting them, like the building remembers exactly where to hurt you. Number 30, East Drive still looks ordinary from the street. That is the worst part, because if a doorway can hide inside a normal home, then you have to wonder what other addresses are waiting, perfectly painted, perfectly priced, and hungry. This has been an entry in the True Haunt lore. If you have your own documented encounter, leave it in the comments. Like the video, subscribe, and share this case file with someone who sleeps a little too easy. So, after descending into the pure chaos we just explored, the violent poltergeist activity, the terrifying physical attacks on the Pritchard family, and the ominous figure of the Black Monk himself, you're probably wondering, what exactly is going on at 30 East Drive today? Well, my personal take on the Pontefract house right now might actually give you chills. Because unlike Enfield, which quietly faded back into normal suburban life, 30 East Drive is basically a perfectly preserved time capsule of terror. If you travel to West Yorkshire today, you won't find a regular family living there. The property was eventually purchased and turned into a dedicated paranormal hotspot. You can actually go online right now and book an overnight stay. But here is the terrifying catch. They haven't renovated it. It hasn't been modernized to look bright or welcoming. The owners deliberately kept that gritty 1970s decor completely intact to preserve the exact environment where all that trauma happened. Honestly, from my perspective, that is what makes this location so uniquely unsettling today. While other famous haunted houses lose their dark energy to fresh paint and modern renovations, 30 East Drive feels completely frozen in time. It is still widely considered one of the most violently active poltergeist houses in Europe, constantly filled with ghost hunters who willingly lock themselves inside just to test their luck. The Black Monk of Pontefract might be a story from the past, but the dread inside those walls is very much alive.